Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of Landscaping to the Point. I'm your host, Scott. We have JC underneath me and Josh underneath me. What is all going on, guys? Welcome back to the show. This is another Sunday night episode. We are live on a whole bunch of channels, so hopefully you guys are seeing us, and we're here to have some great times. So what's new, guys? What's going on?
What's up, Josh? What are you doing?
What are you doing, Josh? You hungry?
I am hungry. I'm living the dream, being myself, being the great me. What can I say?
You're living the dream. That's always good, dude. If you're living the dream, right? That's what we do
right
on here, right?
I don't know
We
what the
live
dream is, but I'm living it.
Well, that doesn't matter as long as we're having a good dream here, right? You know?
Is it a dream or is it a nightmare?
I think it's a
I don't
nightmare.
know.
I don't know what this guy.
I'm gonna be dreaming about JC with that fucking beard on. I don't know.
Oh man, I'm shaving it off like right now.
You be a little rugged mountain man there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You never know. I mean, we might have some people on there watching you, that want to give you a dream pretty much.
Oh God, I can only wait for the comments that are going to be popping up later on in a little bit.
Want to go for a mustache ride?
Yeah. What's up, everybody on Instagram? How's everybody doing tonight? So glad to see a lot of people watching us on Instagram. If you're watching us, you can watch us here on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook. You can listen to us pretty much anywhere. You can listen to us on Boots on Ground Radio, where we're on every week also. So, okay. So we got some good topic today. Hopefully Josh is going to talk today. He was kind of like not wanting to talk last week. That's why he was late coming on. And JC had no power. So I'm glad to see you got power, JC. I really am glad to see you got power back.
That was the longest that I've been without power in a long time. And now, like, we've had like snowstorms, we've had like, blizzards out there and stuff like that. And I've lost it for like maybe an hour or two tops. I think I had it out for at least 8 hours that day.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. How did you keep all your food cold?
Well, luckily I don't keep much of a stocked fridge. I live by myself, so whenever I go grocery shopping, it's like when I absolutely need it. So I didn't have much in there that was going to go really bad unless I finished eating it anyways. So
wow.
Yeah. So that's why I don't keep a stocked fridge, because Josh doesn't have a reason to come over.
Yeah, you don't want him to come over to your house, man. If he pops in your house, you guys are in trouble, guys. Josh steps in, dude. He eats everything. So, and then he'll drink anything up that's there. So, welcome, everybody. I see we got some people on Instagram already saying welcome. Thanks. You guys are awesome. Hey, yeah, thanks for being on. Our topic this week is snow time. I know everybody knows what snow time means. It's hitting everywhere right now. Pennsylvania is getting hit like 2-3 feet right now. You guys got any snow yet?
Josh was out, right? You didn't have any snow, but you were out.
We went out. Yeah, I didn't go out, but there's more spotty salting. But no, man, I told you we're kind of like Mass has been on that snow line where like that cold air hasn't pulled in yet. That cold air pulls in like into December, January. But I saw that like Buffalo, Northeast or Northwest Pennsylvania getting buried right now, like Bill Stadium. I was watching something on like Instagram Reels that I like watching them plow the infield. It's pretty cool. But no, I saw that. Like I know the Dakotas were getting hit. Michigan got buried with like 3 feet of snow, lake effect snow. We actually got, that's the furthest. I think it was last Thanksgiving night. We actually got residual squalls from the lake effect. That's the first time they've ever gotten past the mountains and gotten over this far. So it was like it was a combo of what we had on the coast. It didn't add up to nothing. It was like, if anything, maybe like a spotty salting. We didn't hit anything. We just did site checks, but no, nothing yet as far as snow.
Jeez. Put your name here says snow time is the best way to wreck a truck. I don't know. I mean, I've hit a couple of my trucks, destroyed a little bit of things, but I've never destroyed and wrecked a truck. Mm-hmm. Josh, you ever wreck a truck doing landscaping and on snow removal and stuff with your landscape trucks?
No, but I get what he's saying.
Yeah.
So I know a lot of old timers that don't plow snow and never have, and for that reason, it's the wear and tear, the back and forth on the transmission, the wear and tear
Right.
of the plow, the amount of damage. Like you kill lines, transmission, hydraulic brake lines with all the salt usage. So I get why guys don't want to do it and don't do it. You know, but
So okay, so now we're talking about that wrecking transmissions and stuff. So our good old buddy over at Top Gun, it's got the back plow. So is that something you would you would want on your truck on top of a front plow?
no, but
No.
I say no because it's
Expensive?
foreign. I don't think it's that expensive. I think they're like in the 12 to 14,000 range, which is kind of
Yeah.
like what plows are right now. It's foreign to me, so that's not a big thing in the Northeast, at least in our area of the Northeast.
I don't think I've ever seen one.
I've seen them. I've seen one or two guys with back blades, never in use. I just don't. I don't plow in reverse. It's different. I get the scoop and pulling back, but I still feel like when you get that buildup, where are your rear tires going? I feel like you're going to be riding that. You're going to be riding that snow. So it kind of throws me off. It's not something that I'm against or I wouldn't be interested in. I think that's a tit application for like driveway guys to be in and out of it.
So are you?
I mean, I can see it on a small snowstorm, like 1 to 2 inches, maybe, depending on the size of the parking lot, though.
I mean, are you dragging that snow? Or are you in reverse pushing that snow?
I've seen it both ways. I've seen it both ways, but most of the time you're dragging it. So you're like pulling it, dropping it like at like the front of the sidewalk and pulling it all the way to the end of the parking lot.
I mean, someone brought up a good point a couple of weeks ago, and they said that trucks were meant to tow, not to push.
Right.
But again, I can't understand the logic of piling up all that snow and getting it to the back of your wheels and into your, like, I don't know.
I don't know either. I mean, I think it'd be. Go ahead.
I did message him a few months ago, and they were working on an application for skid steers where you could have.
He's got that almost done.
So I don't. I'd like to see that. Yeah, I don't know. I don't. It's just foreign because it's not something we have up here. I know it's a huge thing in Midwest, maybe like in the Michigan area, but it's not something around here. I just don't. If you work in the suburbs, yeah, but in the city that wouldn't fly. You wouldn't have the turn radius for it. I mean, this is Fisher country, first of all. Like everything up here is Fisher. You might have a few boss guys, but for the most part, we're Fisher country.
Yeah, I think every area is different, dude. I mean, we used to be more Meyer at one point. Now we're more Boss right now in our area, and I think it just changes from after a certain snowplow company gets in and they get in that area real good, they just take over, and that's what ends up happening. I feel like it's the same way with when it comes to lawnmowers. Like you guys, you said you guys don't have hardly any Graveleys anymore, so it's like there's a lot more difference, I think, in every area when it comes to dealerships, when it comes to that.
What brings in more revenue? Plowing or salting within the year? Like, so if you take the whole season, what brings in more money? The money that you get from plowing or the money that you get from salting?
I'd say salting. I mean, I make more money on salting than I do plowing. Josh?
Salting.
Yeah.
The thing about it, like, plowing, depending on what you do, for our outfit, we need heavy steel, loaders, skid steers, trucks. Salting, you can go get, a $7,000 to $10,000 salter. You can buy a $3,000 salter new, and make tens of thousands of dollars salting. Like if you just did that, if you teamed up with a local guy, if he was small, he does the plowing, you do the salting, and that's also less wear and tear in the truck, Right. And again, you can calculate salt, exactly where you want to put it, what you want to do, how much how much you're anticipating using. If you buy bulk, you make a little bit more money, but I'd say salt.
Yeah, I say salt too. Yeah, I agree with you, Josh. I think like you said, it's a lot less wear and tear when you're just driving around salting. I think every time I mean, it also means that you can go out more, especially if you have zero tolerance jobs like Josh has got. I know I got a couple. You got to have those because they're going to want the salt more and you're going to put more salt down for them compared to somebody else that's just like, I just want it done at 2 inches. At 2 inches, you're going to be out there to plow and then throw a little bit of salt down. But, you got somebody that's zero tolerance, you're going to be salting maybe 3-4 times before then. You might not even drop a plow, so.
And
You're
listen,
right
I
there.
tell you,
You're getting in probably, just about as much money as you were plowing the salt the lot,
And Scott's right. If you write it up right, you should be plowing every like you should be deicing every 4 to 6 hours, while they're open. So again, you should get 3 to 4 applications out of a 3-time storm. Like we're looking at something. I think it's Wednesday into Thursday that the forecasting is plowable, that we're predicting is a salting event, that we should get 2 applications out of it. We'll get 1 liquid, 1 granular. That's what we're predicting. So, and that to me, that's better than pushing. I need a third of the manpower and the guys can kind of just move leisurely. There's no rushing around or headaches or spinouts or nothing.
So do you feel like, okay, if you get a full-blown snowstorm, and I know there's like more people involved, do you feel there's more headache and more stress because you got so many people and so much going on because you have to get it done in a certain time, Josh, than just on a salting event where you can have less guys, you can control everything that's going down and everything?
Could go either way, but yeah, I feel like I got more control with the salting. I mean, we have more equipment now, so if like a salter goes down, we can address it. Whereas like in the plowing event, we hit several areas. We have several areas that we service, and if something goes down, there's a lot of moving pieces, and you need to be able to replace that. And it is stressful because it's like a time period where a storm can get away from you real quick. Whereas like salting, like I said, every 4 to 6 hours, you set that schedule that you should kind of just be running through it. Finish your route, go back, fill up the hopper, get ready, grab a cup of coffee and go back and do the next route. So again, it's the guys can run at their leisure and just make sure that they're spreading a decent application.
Yeah, I got a question for you guys. It's kind of random a question, but it's related to the topic. Do you would you guys, if you don't already, would you consider like walkie-talkie radios to communicate with your crews, or are you just going to go old-fashioned cell phones? And let me add to that, because on a walkie-talkie radio, everybody could hear the message at the same time, as opposed to calling individual people. What do you think?
Josh, you want to go ahead on this one first?
So I've used them in the past on the bigger sites like the Amazon. We used them, and that's funny. That's really funny you bring that up, because this morning I was looking at like Rapid Radio. I was looking at a couple different brands. I wanted CB's stationary truck sets and the trucks, and then the loaders, and then the walkway guys don't really need them, but I wanted the CB radios at least, so that guys on each site that are in equipment can talk to one another. Now, someone asked me, why would you do that? Why don't you just use cell phones? Well, for me, I throw my cell phone in my hoodie pocket or my jacket pocket, and a lot of times I don't hear the ping or I don't hear the ringing. Whereas, like you said, in a truck or a loader, you're going to hear that chick, and you're going to hear the scarf go off, and you'll be able to instant, rather than pull it out and saying, hey, come over here. So I am looking at truck systems. We used handhelds a while ago, just like cheap sets we bought off Amazon. Some of them worked on the sites, but I want something where, like, if I'm down 30 miles away, I can at least get in touch with someone in a certain area or a certain site that I'm working on. So each site on its own equipment would have its own channel for the guys. But yeah, I it's funny you say that, because I was looking today to
some of those have some crazy ranges, man. Like
yeah, that's crazy prices too.
When we were kids, had walkie-talkies as toys. Like 100 feet, 500 feet, and like these things like go out miles, man. It's crazy.
Yeah.
But you gotta look. So when they measure distance, they're measuring like desert distance. They're not measuring city distance. So they're not measuring with buildings involved. So when you have something that says, "Hey, we get a 20-mile radius," it's a 20-mile radius. Like when you're in like the Dakotas or Montanas where there's no hills. So of course you're gonna have it. But as soon like that was the problem we ran on Amazon. I spent some coin on some decent radios, nothing above like top tier or anything. And they were great when the building wasn't away. But as soon as you hit, north and south of the building, you lost reception until you went around east to or west to north. You would lose it. So as soon as that interference came in, it took him out of the way. But yeah, no, they have them. And that's what I'm having trouble right now is I thought it was going to be easy to just pick something. They're all in the same price range, whether they're, $350 to $600 per set. But again, it's making sure I can get one that has the range that is actually the range that it says it is.
Right. Yeah.
What about you, Scott?
Well, we've gone through over the many years that we've been doing it. We thought about walkie-talkies there for once. We actually had the Nextel phones with the push to connect. And I pretty much made our guys have those for, I pretty much gave them all phones at that time. And then when we started to get bigger, we went to, it's called Vox on an app that you can get on. And I pretty much said, well, use your own phones. It's a free app. Pretty much everybody had Vox and would go around in Vox. And you could pretty much add a whole group of people and pretty much do it that way. And that's what we kind of did for a while. Over the last couple of years, we've just been calling each other. We'd call each other and say, hey, we're going to this job. You go over to this job. It's easier to do a couple calls, I think, than doing, everybody voxing or direct connect or walkie-talkie. But I get where Josh is going at, especially you're a big, in a bigger area like that, like doing a big Amazon, you got to have probably a couple guys going back and forth. And I think as the owner, you'll be able to hear what's going on and what needs to be done at each site, that you can go like, okay, now I know over at this site, this is getting done, or over at this site, this is getting done. So I'm not having to worry about like, I got to contact 5 different people, as a smaller company like mine, where we're only running 2 crews. When it comes to it, it's easier to call one guy or 2 guys out of the crew and say, hey, what's going on? But I think the bigger you get, I think, yeah, you got to do the in truck, radios and stuff like that.
Scott, I saw on Instagram on the chat.
Yeah.
Peso's Lawn Care. Shout out to Peso's Lawn Care. He asked a question regarding LLCs. So currently I can't see the question. I just know that he did write it because I'm liking his post now. I just followed him. So
yeah. He said also some things that I can do to expand. I think the best time to go LLC is right off the bat if you can. I mean, even being solo, you can go with the solo LLC pretty much. Yeah. And then also he asked, how would I put a client on contract when I can, and the payment would suit, I guess. Josh, you want to jump on that when to put a client on a contract? I mean, I'd say right off the bat, put a client on a contract. That's what I would try to do. And I think that's where you have to be able to have that, because having where you're not having a client on contract is you're just going job to job, don't you think, Josh?
Yeah, I've voiced it all over the place how I feel about like residential contracts, where I just feel like it's a piece of paper. It's good to have,
right?
So you have proof of what you're doing. But yeah, I think your contract could be as simple as like a QuickBooks or a Jobber form, where they have to sign off on the agreed price and services of, I'm going to cut your grass, or I'm going to cut your grass every Wednesday for 28 weeks for $125. You'll be billed at the end of the week. When they sign off on that estimate, you can save that estimate as approved and then bill them out off of that form. And you can use that probably on any of the CRMs or the billing software. But yeah, I would probably do it off the bat. I would call it more of an agreement. When you get into the commercial side of things, then you're usually signing each other's contracts. But residential, you can have a mowing agreement or a service agreement, absolutely. And I would do it off the bat.
Right.
As far what was the question on incorporating?
So
when would be the good time?
Yeah, he was asking. When could be a good time for a solo operator to get an LLC?
That question is going to be answered different ways. But for me, from what I learned is, once you know that the company is actually going to work and be successful in the form where you can see yourself doing it for a few years, and I'd say when you get over like that 100,000 mark, There's tax advantages to it. Depending on the state you're in, when you're sole proprietor, you have a lot of tax exposure and a lot of tax liability where you're going to be taxed at a higher rate from anywhere from 30 to 40%. If you were to become an S corp or LLC, you minimize that, and you do take advantage of those corporate loopholes where now you're taxed at maybe 15%, and you're taxed after the fact of the company's expenditures. So once you get to that point where that the company's going to go on and it's something you're going to do, I would structure with an accountant, and they'll usually go based off the numbers you're doing and the tax exposure in your state and how it works. I know in Massachusetts, a lot of guys go LLC. We went right incorporated S corp. We didn't do the LLC. The tax advantage is just at the growth we were growing at. S corp worked better for me.
Okay. I think a lot of people too that are starting off like that, they're always, as they should, they ask that question: should they go sole proprietorship? Should they go LLC? And a lot of those companies, man, should probably be looking into getting insurance, and some of them don't have them. So that's just to kind of add to that question as a recommendation. Make sure you get your insurance too. It's cheap enough, and you don't want anything bad to happen.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you want to have pretty much, make sure you're covered on every aspect, no matter what you're doing, because literally, there's different policies for different things that you do, like trees. Like me and Josh do snow removal. You're going to want to have that in place. Just make sure you go through and make sure you have the right insurance when you're doing that. That's one of the main things definitely to have, because, that could really bite you in the ass in the long run.
Scott, when's the next predicted snowstorm in your area?
Well, we're having flurries today. We're going to have flurries later this week, but we have no snow really accumulations in the thing. I know you guys got some coming up, but us, snow flurries, we're not even close to half an inch, so it's nothing to where we're having to worry too bad about it. So that's kind of a better thing.
Yeah, we don't know when ours is coming. The cold this week definitely is the temperature has dropped. So this week we do have our lowest temperatures of the year. But kind of like what Josh said earlier, we don't really get that snow until at least after December into January, February, March. That's usually the time when the majority of our snow comes down. And when it comes down, it's usually pretty substantial. But last year, I don't know. What do you think, Josh, last year? It was kind of hit or miss. We didn't really get too much. And I think the year before that, we didn't get much of anything either.
What, for snow totals?
Yeah.
I think on average throughout the state, with some secluded spots, I think we were like 30 inches for average for the state, which is, we're like a 50 to 60 inch average, if you go up to 10. Yeah. But again, even these cold temps right now. So we posted something on the company page about, the beginning of this week, the wind chill temperatures, and a lot of the cold air we're getting right now is from those storms that are moving through Northwest Pennsylvania and up through New York, and it's swooping in that cold air. But the problem we have with that is when that moisture does come through, it's drying up with all the wind that's behind that cold air. So everything that we had Thanksgiving night, we had a nice drizzle with some flurries. I don't know if you had them over by you, JC. But by the time they were hitting the ground, we were getting 18-mile-an-hour wind gusts that was drying everything up. And that's kind of the story until usually about mid-January when we start getting the actual cold weather, unassisted cold weather.
Yeah. It's definitely like what you said earlier about the from Buffalo and the wind coming in, the cold front.
Yeah.
So one quick question on this. I know our buddy Don's watching over on Instagram, but I wanted to know, he uses backpacks. Do you guys throw a backpack in and blow off some of the driveways if you need to, or the sidewalks?
I have. It's not something the thing is the type of snow we get now is like the concrete. It's like a wet tacky snow. We don't really get fluffy stuff. So typically our snowstorms will start rain, go snow, and end as rain. So you don't really have the opportunity to use the blows anymore. In the past, 5-10 years ago, absolutely, you'd have one in your truck if you didn't have a salter and clean up a walkway in 2 minutes.
I get it. Yeah. We got some people from Ireland and Texas on YouTube. Welcome, guys, from being on. Definitely, to answer some of the questions they want to know where we're from. I'm from Ohio. They're from in Massachusetts. We got a guy from Russia too. Says greetings. So, straight back to you guys. Welcome for being on. But I think I feel like it's good to have for like light snowstorms. And it's something, like you said, you get a lot of wetness ahead of time. So it's kind of pointless to have a backpack blower in if it's not, dry and fluffy. So, yeah, I think it's one of those pointless things. Unless it's a dry snowfall, it's not worth pulling out and, off the shelf to go do a couple sidewalks or whatever you're going to use for it. But
what's the best kind of snow to snow blow?
Ooh, compactable. I mean, if it's too wet, dude, if it's too wet, it's not going to, the snowblower's not going to throw it far enough. I'm going to end up having to shovel it, and then it's going to take longer time. Josh, what about you?
I like the fluffy shit. Flies, cleans up quick, you're in and out. I don't like the wet stuff. It breaks share pins. It just causes a mess. But I mean, that's all we get anymore. We're not cold enough. Like our average temp right now is 30 through the winter. Like I want to say every single storm, include like our first storm last year, which was our biggest storm where we got 18 inches on the high average. If we had gone completely into freezing that whole time, we probably would have had about 2 feet, if not more. But because that temperature hovered over 32 to 35, we wound up at 18 of like heavy fucking snow. Like heart attack snow. So like we don't even have the opposite. Like if we get a fluffy snow, it's rare. Like we have to be very cold. But typically the only time we're getting anything is when we have rain coming in, and it'll usually, like every storm last year was a flip to snow at nighttime around midnight, and then it would flip back around 4 or 5 a.m. So you get the bulk of your work done, clean it up, and then you just be fighting slush. And then if it continued raining, you go over. So I love the fluffy stuff, but we don't get it anymore.
Yeah, I mean, I like it when we get it. I mean, I'd say probably last year out of the 9 inches we got, I think there was probably 2 times we got to where it was fluffy, so it was kind of a little bit easier that way. But yeah, the rest of it's wet, and it's one of the things I think it takes longer to do when it's wet, and that's when you're taking so much more time to get a job done. I mean, definitely, too long for me to do a job, definitely.
I think because we don't get the fluffy snow all too often, like you're gonna have to like kind of weigh out the pros and cons and go for like that medium type between. I don't like the slush, obviously, and the snowblower doesn't work with the slush. But kind of in that in between type of snowfall, hopefully, you get into the point where it gets too hard at the end of the driveways. It's just a pain in the butt to break up.
Right. Yeah. Okay. So here's another question for you guys. Josh, I know you use different things. Which do you use better on sidewalks? Regular rock salt, calcium chloride, the magnesium stuff, or I mean, I know you're testing out the liquid stuff. Are you going to be using that on sidewalks also?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't have a big opinion on the liquids for sidewalks yet. I will at the end of this season. If I had my choice, everything would be calcium pellets. It melts faster. I put down calcium. I know that I'm safe. I put down rock salt, man, 50-50. It's not just because it eats away at the concrete. It's just the heat that it puts off that it melts at. So if I have my way, I'd go calcium on everything. But because, you're talking in bulk, $15 a bag, buying a retail 20 versus, let's call it $7.50 a bag to $10 a bag. There's a big difference there of what consumers want to pay.
You're going to have to give me the recipe on that if you're making your own brine. Yeah. Because I want to try to use that this year.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, you said you're just going to use plain rock salt to make that, Josh?
No, calcium.
Calcium to make it? Okay.
I don't have a machine to agitate traditional salt. So
Okay.
with the calcium, I can agitate it with the hose. And
Okay.
I bought a water meter to make sure I have the right percentage of calcium in there. So the brine I'm going to buy from someone local, and then if I like the way everything works this year, we'll probably invest in brine making equipment and reservation tanks.
Okay. Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think that's a big thing. I mean, up here, I mean, they're asking for a lot of our contracts are now asking for the calcium chloride on the sidewalks anyway. So I think that, that's something we've been using. We use hot paint deicer for a long time. We've used dragon melt, for the last couple of years too. So, I mean, that stuff's all got the calcium chloride in it. So it helps out on the sidewalks. And I think one of the benefits to using that is the color to it, because then you know exactly that you done the sidewalk and everything's covered up before,
But that's the upfall so that's the hot pink. Is that the Troy Clog stuff?
Yeah, that's Troy's. Yeah.
So I think that has a bit more calcium than most people would have. But like the dyed shit, I mean, all that is a dye. You
Right.
can dye any salt, any color. It doesn't mean that it's treated. Doesn't mean it has anything.
Well, you make it and you dye it a good color for me, and then I'll buy it from you.
No. The hot pink shit's legit. Like Troy Clog is like a top dog in the snow industry.
He is. Yeah.
Tend to call that shit out. What I'm saying is like you can put it down and know that it's identifiable by the blue, the pink, or the green, or purple. That's usually, I think we use the purple. It switches every year. We go with the lowest price. With the calcium application, the calcium pellets, calcium chloride, I feel like that's like 99%. You walk away from a site and you did the walkways, it's done. I mean, I've had instances where we've had like heavy glazes on sites, like small sites. Maybe we did an alleyway that doesn't get a lot of sunlight, and we've salted it and it's not activating. We'll take a few shovels of calcium and toss it back there. Instantly, it's like it's like Rice Krispie treats or Rice Krispie cereal where you hear it stop popping.
Yeah, I mean, that's the only reason why we throw it on our sidewalks, dude, is just because we know that that's going to clear that sidewalk real good. Mm-hmm. We used to have a funeral home that literally we used to have to, like, half the lot, they wanted calcium chloride, and then the rest would be rock salt, and that would be like the back part of the parking lot would be, rock salt, and then like the first entryway, as you first pulled in the parking lot, and then the rest was all calcium chloride. And that was one of the most expensive saltings ever for them, but they were willing to pay it. And I think that's awesome if they're willing to pay it. Jay's Rolling wants to know, how much do you guys charge to clean up snow, by the foot or by the place? So Josh charges by the foot, square foot, right, Josh?
The formula on the commercial stuff, yeah, I mean, on the pavement, it breaks down like per acreage. It's the same as you would do anything. How much you'll charge to clean snow, you'll charge by the square foot. I mean, it's how long it takes you to plow it versus the type of equipment you have. So, I mean, you will look at it as acreage, or you could break it down to square foot. I mean, it really comes down to anything. It's how long it's going to take you, by how much you want to charge, multiply it, and there's your cost. But typically, like if you were doing a driveway, we had a minimum when we did residential is $100 per visit, and we would bill it. Residential was like 2 to 6, 6.1 to 10, 10.1 to 13, and so on. So, but I wouldn't do the first visit's 100, the second visit 75, the third visit. I'm not going to lower the price to go back and do the same exact thing. So it literally be 100, 200, 300. So at the end of the storm, you owed $300 because it was a 10-inch storm. Easy as that. And I had some people that said that's crazy because they were trained to the way of like old school mentality of like, I'm going to discount you 25% to come back and clean the other 6 inches, even though I just cleaned 3 for $100. It didn't make sense to me. So, and I've given a lot of people that formula. It's not like it's a secret recipe or anything, but it works for a lot of people.
Right. Yeah, I think that's the best way to do it. I mean, I think residential is different. Do you charge residentials differently? Do you charge by the square foot too, or do you just look at a residential and say, this is what I would charge if you were doing residentials or when you were doing residentials?
Minimum $100 charge for a 2-car driveway.
Okay.
But again, it's like don't think of square footage. Think of production rates, right? You got to look at your route. So everything you do in any industry is production rates, right? Time it takes versus money you want to charge. So if it takes you an hour to do it and you want to make $200 an hour, you got to charge $200. That's if you know everything that goes into that $200 to make sure that you're paying the amount of money it takes for you to operate that truck plus make yourself some profit. That's what's in that. So it's like you look at it like most residential trucks want to average around like 250 to 300 an hour, right? Not crazy because with insurance wear and tear, that's what you make. So if you have 50 houses, you want to make sure that you can average that 250 or that $200 to $300 per hour with that. So I mean, that's kind of how I would go with it. I guess you could break that down into square foot pricing, but I mean, there's a lot of variables. What if you got curbs in the driveway? What if you got someone with an island in the driveway? You're not going to charge if someone calls up and says, "Hey, I have 1,000 square foot driveway," but fails to mention that there's a giant island and there's a retaining wall here and a field stone wall here that you can't stack snow against and you have to back drag everything. There's a lot of those variables. So I mean, you always look and have a minimum, and it's really just an hourly rate. You look at it, it's gonna take me this long to do it. And if you fuck up on the quote, the next time you quote a house similar, they go high.
Right.
It's not rocket science.
Right. So here's a question for you, because I know I do this. When we quote the price for a residential, we include like doing the sidewalks and the rock salt. Unlike when we do commercial, we charge separately for that. So when you were doing residential, would you charge for the sidewalk separately and the salt separately, or would you include that?
Always separate. Most of my residentials wouldn't take salt. We would always try to upsell it. Maybe like 1 or 2 would take it. But they would always take care of themselves. The sidewalks were always a separate add-on, and they were always after we were done plowing. The only reason for that was I didn't have the manpower.
Right.
The guys that were plowing for us, I wanted them in the trucks getting the routes done, because even when it was residential, there were always like a small couple commercial lots that needed to be done, and I wanted all the plowing done. And then after that, we might have some shovelers that would come in and help, but the guys in the trucks would jump out. So it was always at the end they would come back, but it was always a separate price. Okay.
Yeah, I think everybody has their different ways of doing it, and be able to do that. Jay says, can you invent a machine that sprays hot water and melts the snow? I bet you could. I mean,
yeah, it's called a brine machine.
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
That's temporary though. That water's going to freeze anyways.
Yeah. Right.
I know there's a machine. I forget what it's called. If it's Godzilla or something, or Blizzard Maker, maybe, that I know New York's got a bunch of them that when it does snow a lot, they just scoop it up, dump it in it, and melts the water and drains it back into the sewer system. Yeah, I know that.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, other than a machine that just, you could use a blowtorch, heat up the sidewalks and melt it. I mean, if you really wanted to.
Tesla made a flamethrower.
There you go.
$2,000.
Yeah, there you go. That's the best way we're gonna melt that snow quickly. I mean, but how much battery are we gonna use though? That's the thing. Are we gonna have to get one of those big Tesla batteries?
Getting an electronic battery.
I think it'd take a lot of power.
I'm looking it up right now on eBay.
It's on eBay, of course. It's
funny that the listing says not a flamethrower, because I guess you can't.
Yeah, you can't say it's a flamethrower.
Right.
Against law.
So real quick, just to go back on a question that Jensen asked earlier on snow totals, I just picked up. I just logged on to WeatherWorks, and so we cover. I have 4 areas on here that cover kind of like the suburbs of Boston, and they include, pretty much anywhere from 10 minutes out of Boston to 35 minutes. The highest being in Andover, Mass. at 31.3 inches last year was the total from September to May, and the lowest being in Somerville, which is 13.3 inches. And the majority of that snow all came in January on that big storm.
Ah, I see.
And then after that, in February, every single site was 2 inches or lower. In March, It was a half an inch or lower. In April, one site had 3.2 inches, and the other ones were 3/4 of an inch.
Okay. So here's a question for you guys, because I know over the last, pretty much our area, over the last 9 out of 10 years, our snow totals have gone down because of the temperature outside going up. I heard it's been going up 2.5 degrees every year. So has snow totals been going down for you guys every year?
Yeah.
Feels like it.
Yeah. Maybe Al Gore was right. Who knows? Fucking.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's. Do you feel like in 10 more years we're going to be snow plowing and all that?
Not here.
Not
Honestly,
here?
I don't. I don't think here. Like we talked about this before on the podcast, where
Right.
Jensen, I don't know if you remember, but like back in the day, like Boston and even the Cape would get buried. Like I remember as a kid, Thanksgiving being snow covered, like blankets of snow, and snow on Thanksgiving. Like when they talked about this shit, no way, dude. Like a white Christmas, I think I've had one in 20 years. One white Christmas in 20 years, and I want to say last year, wasn't it like 60-something degrees on Christmas?
Yeah, it was warm.
Yeah.
We actually, it's so bad out here, guys, that we actually have like furniture companies that will give you the cost of what you spent on purchasing furniture if it snows a certain amount on Christmas Day.
Yeah,
so
we have a jewelry store here that's been doing it for, well, I think like literally 10 years, and there was only one time they had to pay, and it was one time that we like got, I think 12 or 13 inches because it was on a Super Bowl day, that they said on Super Bowl, if you get 4 or more inches, we'll pay you back what you paid in your jewelry purchase. And they literally lost their ass because of it. And now it's like every year they're like, Christmas Day, if we get 4 more inches, we ain't had 4 more inches on Christmas in like 20 years here. So good luck buying jewelry and getting your money back for it. Like,
but I'd say if we don't get real snow in 5 years, the real snow being like a consistent like 45 to 50 inches, because like we do technically hit our average. It's just done in lesser storms. But like if we don't start getting more consistent snow, no, I think we're done. I think the whole climate change thing is showing its face, and I think that the snow belt is really going to be from like northern New Hampshire, north.
Yeah, I think it's changed. Guy over on Instagram said, and he's in New Jersey, says totals have gone down in New Jersey also. I think it's gone down a lot. I mean, I remember ours was literally supposed to be around 45 inches on average. Now we're down to like 36 on average, but only saying that they're only predicting like 20 inches totally this year.
The joke in Boston is that it's the next Jersey with snow, because I think Jersey has dropped significantly since call it like 2006, 2007. I think they've dropped drastically. Like I think did the same thing when it snows. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think they get like the concrete. They get like the wet stuff if it even accumulates. By the time it accumulates, it's pissing out.
Right. Yeah. Dude, I just feel like it's just gonna eventually. But do you feel that we're gonna get that one year where it's just gonna drop so much snow? We ain't gonna be able to do shit because everybody's gonna move out of snow plowing. They're gonna be like, "Oh, we ain't worried about this now," and then we're gonna get this snowstorm.
You always have to expect it, I guess. But like, man, I'm trying to reminisce back when I was a kid. When we had snowstorms, and it's not like today's day and age where you get 2 inches of snow and it cancels school. Like we used to have to walk, and I know it sounds freaking like old school. Oh, we used to walk 15 miles in the snow and 6 feet. No, we had to like actually go to school when there was snowstorms, and if it was really, really bad, that's when they would cancel it. And we'd go out outside sledding and playing around, and like cars are being shoveled out of their parking spots. Like it was bad, man. And that was, Josh, I think you can remember, that was probably like December,
Thanksgiving to Christmas, you could expect snow on the ground. But
yeah, I remember that back when I was
real. But I will tell you, I think the difference between then and now, as far as like the school cancellation, I mean, I have kids, so I see the difference, but I think there's more distractions on the road, and there's less people doing it. It's getting hotter and hotter for municipalities to get contractors to plow snow. And like like just look at some of the areas like Jensen where we're at, like, they can't do shit. They can't even keep the ice off the roads in some of the hills around here,
Right.
So it's tough. There's a lot more people on the roads, and I think there's less providers and contractors getting into it and more trying to find, interior demolition work. Like, listen, even a lot of the help, right? The majority of the labor force with snow, and I'm not saying this to point fingers, but it's usually Central American, South American, Hispanic men, right? A lot of those guys now are starting to take restaurant jobs just because, one, it pays better, they're staying warm, it's more consistent. Like, and I get it, And the same thing with the operators. The operators don't want to do it anymore because before, they could make into making, 6 to 10 grand. And, with the unemployment, it offset them. But now it's not even worth fucking up their unemployment to jump in for 45. I put an ad up for a loader driver for one site on one push or a 5-acre site for $45 an hour. I had one fucking asshole that told me I was considering the position until I saw the $45 an hour. Go fuck yourself.
What do you want? Like $100 an hour?
Yeah, like, dude, you're pushing snow. You're not doing fucking detailed work. You're pushing fucking snow. $45 an hour is a fair rate. I get it. You want a bigger rate, go union.
Right.
Buy some warmer clothing.
Yeah, no doubt.
Let me ask you that.
You're in a t-shirt and
yeah. Let me ask you that for the guys that are doing like snow blowing and shoveling and stuff like that, and for you guys being in the industry for years, like how much of a toll over time does that take on your body, or do you get used to it? I mean, like it's cold, and the cold goes to your bones, and just it's tough.
I think it adds up. Yeah, I mean, I feel like when I first started, because I started doing snow removal right out of high school when I was 18. And I feel like now, being almost 30 years later, I feel like, it's taken its toll. It's more harder to drive at night for me without my glasses. But I feel like it also is, it does get colder faster sometimes. And you're like, when you get that, that wind, and it's negative, some degrees, you're like, shit, do I really want to be out here? Do I really want to get out of the truck to do this? I mean, I'm glad to, sometimes I got guys that are willing to go out, shovel, snow blow, or whatever they have to do to get the job done so I can sit in the truck. But then I'm like, well, they're out there. Like, do they really want to be out there and huff it this much, So, I mean, I get it. It definitely does toll on you. And I feel like knowing some of the older guys that used to do it when I did it that are now like 30 years older than me are like, man, I'm glad I got out of it 20 years ago, and they don't want to do that. They don't even want to do their own driveways. They're hiring somebody to do their own driveways. So I think, it does do a toll on you, and I can see it. I don't know about you, Josh.
Yeah, of course.
Josh, he's definitely he's got to stay in the truck.
He has like constant frostbite on his fingers.
I have bad arthritis in my hands and my knees, and I'll still get out, man, but it's different than it was even 5 years ago, man. Like, dude, I don't mind getting out and shoveling a walkway or any of that shit now, but like,
right.
Dude, I would go out and I would work these storms, and I mean, I've been doing snow since I was 16 years old. Like, obviously not professional level back then, but I go out and I shovel. I'd run in a truck or a bobcat or whatever, and I do whatever, and I'd run the sweatshirt, and I'd be fine. The cold didn't bother me. Dude, now like 40 degrees, I'm in my house with the heat on right now, and I got a flannel jacket on. I'm like, it's taking its toll, But I think guys that do it professionally for a living, they know how to equip themselves. I mean, companies also have to go a long way. It's not just the pay; it's making sure the guys are comfortable. Make sure that like when they show up to work, like I get it's not your job, but like if a guy shows up in a pair of Nikes, like you might want to give him a heads up. Like that's not going to listen. It's happened.
Yeah.
It's happened. Like, I had a guy show up to a construction job in dress shoes. So I mean, dude, people show up underdressed. I've had guys show up in just jeans to shovel, and I'm like, you're out of your fucking mind, dude. Like, invest in the PPE for the guys, whether it's throwing them, $50, $75 for a decent pair of gloves. I mean, that's not just the pay. Obviously the pay goes a long way. These guys should be making, $30 to $60 an hour, depending on the site they're on, because that shit sucks. Who the fuck wants to do it? I'm not getting out of bed for $20, $25 an hour. I mean, granted, I was shoveling walkways for probably $12, $15 an hour, at one point, and working fucking 40 hours straight. But now it's these guys have to They have to eat a lot of the elements. Whereas, like, again, you got a guy busting my balls about $45 an hour to work in a machine with a radio, Bluetooth connection, heat and wipers and working lights. Like, come on.
Do you buy your guys like outerwear, like gloves, like?
I do the company hats. Gloves I'll do if they want them. Some guys do their own shit. I offer it, I think as we get bigger, I'm probably gonna, like, guys that sign on that have like done a year and it coming back. I'm probably gonna invest in the car hats, basically like the socks, the hats, and the gloves. And go through that. But because it's hard to give guys $200 worth of PPE and then they screw off to another company. But if I have return guys, I have no problem making the investment, dude.
Right.
Would you ever consider like branding the clothes, like curb and
yeah,
and then like give it to them so that if they do leave, they have to return their equipment back, or
Yep. That's a good. So like I think this year we're starting with like landscape guys that work with us and guys that I have guys that have returned for a few years in a row. We're going to give them the high vis jackets and have them branded with the company logo and name on them and everything. And those are they're theirs to keep. They've done enough service with us that it doesn't matter. But it's I've seen guys go into companies get vests, high vis jackets, like good like $200 jackets, hats, and then screw and go to another company.
All right. So I'm glad we're talking about this because I have shitty winter gear. So I'm making it a point because I hate the cold. I hate the snow. I made a point to get myself some swag so that I could go out there and not have to worry about it. I got my gloves.
Okay.
As far as like, what would you recommend? Insulated pants, Carhartt jackets? Like, what are you talking?
So I like the Carhartt snow overalls. So I don't know if you call them snow suits or not, but I like those. I sweat in those. So when I was
the full ones, the full all the way body, pretty much all the way up?
Not the coveralls, the overalls.
The overalls.
The coveralls are sleeves. Overalls are like suspended
right.
overalls.
Yeah.
So I have them where they're just the jean fabric, and I have the ones that have like the insulated and the waterproofing on them. I use those, and those are fucking amazing. I would put those on. I would put knee-high winter socks on and PJ pants underneath, and I'd be fine. Bring a pair of jeans with me, change out. Those are great. I think those run almost about $200 for a pair, but man, they're fucking worth it.
Maybe I'm looking at the wrong ones. I just looked it up now. It's $119. It's the men's insulated bib overall loose fit duck 3 warmest rating overalls. $119.
Yeah, maybe they're 119. Maybe I got it wrong.
What company is that? Is that Carhartt?
Carhartt, yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
So whatever it says on that's what it is. I have 2 pairs. I have a black pair and I have a beige pair.
Okay.
And then I have the regular overalls for like when I just work at the shop.
Yeah.
But those to me, I use those, and honestly, I was always a cheap ass. I always bought like Walmart boots, like cheap Champion hoodies, and I would never spend the money. My wife would go, you're going through 3 or 4 pairs of Walmart boots. You're buying cheap sweatshirts. That like everything I own now for winter gear is Carhartt. The sweatshirts and those overalls are all I need. And then if I want, I put on like my high vis rain jacket, which is like I don't know, whatever the high vis companies are at working gear.
What about you, Scott?
I have pretty much insulated coveralls, and then just kind of like Josh does. And then I have we have a reflective jacket it's cold weather jacket. It's really thick. It's reflective. I got our logos on them. All the guys have them. And then I'll go out if they need gloves, I'll buy their gloves. And usually like a lot of them have like the insulated ones. I can't wear insulated. I got to wear like mechanics gloves really. And that's what I wear when I'm out there. So that way, just for me, it's just easier for me for getting my fingers on snow blower or whatever I need to get into. So, but boots wise, I'm kind of like Josh. I still buy the cheap ones. I feel like sometimes cheap ones for me are just easier. I can go through 2 pairs in a winter than going thick, heavier winter boots. What are you wearing, Josh, that is better boot wise?
So I have For my construction, I use them for the winter. I have a pair of steel toe bogs. They're not cheap. I want to say they were like $250, but you can get the non-steel toes, and I think they're about like $150. Bogs are great, but there's not a lot of support. But honestly, I mean, I would, for the winter boots, I mean, you can spend the $150, $200 and get a decent like rain boot. I've done them, but I get a season out of them. I'm horrible with winter boots. I run through them. They smell like ass after like a month just because they get wet. The bogs come up right below my knee. You know, if I have to get out, I try to take those with me, leave them on my passenger seat, and throw them on. But for the most part, I mean, most of the time I end up wearing my fucking Timbs, to be honest with you. But I'll wear cheapies. I don't spend a lot of money outside of just the bogs.
Yeah. BEC Contracting on Instagram says Rocky 1000 grain thin slate steel toe boots for $300. I mean, I want to know how long you keep them, BEC. I mean, I'm really wondering. I mean,
but those are construction boots. Those aren't winter boots, though.
Yeah, but they're thin.
So that's it. So the thing with steel toe boots, when you're working in the winter, you'll freeze your fucking toes off. That's what you have to realize. When you wear the steel toe boot, your toes are gonna get cold, and you don't that's a no. You can get away with the composite plastic, but you don't want steel toe. I mean, I'll put the bogs on because it's a little different. I'm taking them on and off. I'm not keeping them on the whole time. But you want more of like a webbed foot boot.
Yeah, definitely. And then over on YouTube, guy says Refrigiwear is the best. Climbs hundreds of feet in the air and it keeps you warm all winter. Yeah, I heard Refrigiwear like overalls and coats are really good. I don't know if you guys ever. Yeah, they you can find them over on Instagram, definitely. So and BEC says he's had those boots three winters and only wear them December through March. So
what climate are you in?
BEC is in Michigan.
Oh,
so
that
up.
So I mean, I know he's actually they've already plowed because he actually bought one of the Top Gun plows. So definitely, I'd like to get BEC on here one time if you would, and definitely talk about that Top Gun plow because I'd like to know how you like it so far. Yeah, he's up in Detroit, he said. So he's not far from me. So,
yeah, they just got hammered, I think.
Yeah. So yeah. And then another guy the same guy on YouTube about Refrigiwear says invest in a boot dryer. Do you guys any of you have the boot dryer? I mean,
that's so funny. I almost I just actually almost bought one this week or last week on Amazon for like $45. And it's good year round. Like, you know, if you like sweat a lot and stuff, your shoes get funky, definitely put them on there.
Yeah. I mean, I've thought about it many a times. I mean, I think that might be a plus if I could get one of those because especially some of those boots. I mean, even if you got steel toe boots, I feel like I still get them, you know, a couple times, and then then you're wet and your boots are wet and you got to go out, you know, within an hour or two. So I might invest in a boot dryer definitely. He said BEC says he's used the Top Gun plow once. And then he's had 2 salt runs last couple times. So I'd definitely like to see how he feels how it runs when it comes to snow next once we get a good snow.
Off the one push, are you happy with the purchase or do you regret it with just that one push?
Yeah, BEC, are you happy with the back plow or you regretting it so far?
If you had to judge it off the one push,
I would say he loves it. I bet you he loves it. I mean, I think it comes in handy for certain applications, like I said before. But I don't know. When it gets bigger snow, that's where I'm thinking it's going to be.
But it's weird because we say it wouldn't handle bigger snow, but the only place I see it is in the Midwest where they get fucking real snow.
Right.
You know, it's. I mean, I consider Michigan Midwest, but
he says no regrets so far.
Oh wow, okay. And what was it, like 12 to 14K for the setup?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's like 14, I think. So
those are what? Those are 814 or 816? Is the spread on those?
I think they're 814 if I'm correct,
Okay.
or 714, something like that. I think.
And then can you windrow? So like like Metal Plus, right? You can go it's like 8 feet and 4 feet moldboard, 4 foot, and then you kick it out. So can you kick out one moldboard and have one row in and just kind of windrow it out?
Yeah.
That's cool.
That's 16 foot, he says.
That's not bad. So that was that's been my back and forth on like a mini loader or a skid steer when I look at Rob's plows versus like a $40,000 Metal Plus, or let's call it a $30,000 Metal Plus. Like, can you get the same result? You obviously get the coverage, but are you going to get the same scrape if you would have put that on a piece of that's kind of my big thing, because I don't because we run salters in the pickup trucks. I know that they're working on an application where you could put a sprayer, but I need to be able to run granular salters. So I would rather see that on a loader application or skid steer application.
Yeah, I think if I'm correct, BEC, do you have a salter in the back of that truck too? That's what I want to know. I think he does.
Not that he uses it. He fucking kill it. He kill it because it's got a gearbox on it.
I don't know. I think they're looking. If not, they're looking to figure out something so that way you can have a salter in there. I mean, definitely that would be something that if you could have a salter or a sprayer in there and still have that. No, he doesn't have a salter in it. So
yeah, I'm pretty sure I just saw Rob. I think his name's Rob, right?
Yeah.
On like Snow Fighters or Snow Professionals or whatever, say that they were working on an application for a brine sprayer, which makes more sense. But even with the spray, if you're not cleaning it, you're going to kill it. But having a salter on it, there's no way you would kill that gear. That gearbox is on the back. You'd rot it out in 2 seasons.
Yeah. Well, guys, it's been a very interesting, very interesting conversation here this week. With some great conversations on YouTube, on Instagram. Thank you guys for listening. Thank you guys for commenting, questioning stuff. We are here every week, same bat time, same bat channel. See you guys all next week. Thanks to our sponsors, Cujo, and we have a new sponsor that's coming up next week. So just come back next week and I'll tell you who the new sponsor is. Thank you guys. Subscribe, save, and you never know. Josh will be here.